Let's talk about the shadow side. This pesky, annoying, painful, most amazing, wonderful, and quite spectacular side of us that we all have. I know the shadow side might sound scary, but it's nothing to be afraid of. In fact, if you want to awaken, grow into your spiritual ascension, progress along your spiritual journey, talk to angels and all of your guides, and even heal physically, emotionally, and psychologically just here within the physical world, the shadow side is something you really want to be aware of and have some idea of what you should do about it. So let's talk about this concept of the shadow side, how it affects us, and when it may come out to haunt us, so you can prepare for the intense shadow work that your soul is likely calling you to do. My name is Sarahdawn, and I'm writing books, making videos, and putting out content for highly sensitive spiritual beings who are likely to experience things like depression, anxiety, and neurodiversity as part of their life's path and soul's mission. And it is my mission to help you understand yourself, your path, and the power you have. So what is the shadow side? The shadow side is a part of ourselves where we keep all of the pieces, parts, and aspects of ourselves and our lives that we do not want to acknowledge or accept about ourselves. So to begin with, it will help you to know that we're physical beings on a physical planet, and therefore we cast a shadow. We're dense, solid, physical beings that cast a shadow. But I'm not talking about just physically when we're standing in the sun or a bright light. As light or spiritual beings, we then cast a shadow within our psyche as well. And it is a big part of who we are as spiritual human beings. A huge reason for the existence of the shadow side is due to our free will. We are born with, and we have the potential for either good or bad. We can choose to be anything we want or desire to be in this life. No matter how good you are, no matter how good of a person you are, you have the potential to carry out evil acts. It's in you. It's part of being a physical human being. You have just chosen not to. That is not who you want to be. And it's your free will to make that choice. And we all have it. And your shadow side is what holds all of those aspects and qualities, all those traits, feelings, and thoughts that you have rejected, that you have chosen not to take on as part of who you are and who you want to be. It's still there, and we still have the potential, but it is our choice which qualities we want to embrace and which we want to bring into our light. And I really hope that any of you struggling with depression, anxiety, fear, or self-doubt, or anything like that is hearing this, because this is relevant to you. You do have a choice, and your shadow side is what holds the secrets you need to know to make the changes in how you see yourself, your life, and your purpose that will help you find your way to be your true self. The best way I can think of to describe and understand the shadow side is that it's like a storage closet or like an oubliette. It is where we put things that we want to forget about, or things that we don't want to face about ourselves, our lives, or the kind of person that we have the potential to be. And once we put something in the shadow, it becomes part of our subconscious or unconscious. It is out of our awareness, far, far away from our consciousness, or so we think. Remember how we talked about the ego in the last video? And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up here so you can watch that if you want to. But we talked about how the ego has developed over a lifetime of experiences, and its sole job is to do whatever it takes to keep you physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually safe and protected. But when it is unhealthy, it becomes super overprotective, right? And keeps us in a state of fear and anxiety, which stops us from growing and moving along our journeys, and it keeps us stuck, stagnant, and safe. So the ego is primarily responsible for what we choose to put into the shadow. And it ends up being enough that it is harmful for us. So our shadow sides end up not being just experiences that you want or need to forget, or carry the traits that are not consistent with the person you want to be. It also carries any aspect of ourselves that we do not want to face for any reason, regardless of what it is, good, bad, useful, whatever. So we all have a story or a narrative, right, about who we are and what our lives are all about. So we tend to only remember or tell ourselves about whatever there is in our experience, in our past, in our present, or even what we think will happen in the future that supports this story that we have. And we only see and accept what is part of our personality that supports that story. And the rest we put into our shadow and we forget about it. Okay, now notice I did not say that we keep what supports what we want to be or what we are. I said we keep in our conscious awareness only what supports the story or the narrative we have about ourselves, right? So that means we also, and very often, put good things into our shadow, things that are useful, helpful, good about us. Many of our natural traits and skills and talents make it in there, and the shadow ends up holding so much of what makes us beautiful and amazing people who carry the light of source within us. So say, for example, you're depressed and dealing with depression for a long time, like I did for so many years. I believed everyone and everything, the whole world, was better off without me. I was a failure. I couldn't do anything. People didn't like me, and they had every reason not to. I was a burden on my loved ones, and they would be better off without me. I was a mistake that somehow slipped by God, and I was such a horrible person that I didn't even deserve to be happy. That was the story I had about myself. That is what I believed. And if you asked, I could have given you 100 examples of how each one of those beliefs were true. Oh, I could back it up within a blink of an eye because I went over it with myself every single day. However, buried deep within my shadow and out of sight and out of my awareness, out of my consciousness, were all the times I did things right. Perhaps someone did like me, and times when I was valuable and made a difference in someone's life. Times I was successful and did things well and things went right. My shadow held so many of my talents that I was afraid to even try to use them at all because I only saw myself as a failure and someone nobody would like or ever want to listen to. I just didn't matter. Deep within your shadow lies aspects of who you truly are and who you are meant to be in this life. Things that you may have been told that were wrong or not good or not the way that you're meant to be. When your ego began to develop based on what the world told you were supposed to be, your shadow became full of the broken pieces and fragments of your true self that you tried to then deny and forget so you could fit in and be who you were meant to be. So when I was young, I was told that I was shy, I was too nice, I was a pushover, I was not focused enough, I didn't apply myself, and I definitely didn't try hard enough, and I could fit in with the other kids if I just tried. This was just tip of the iceberg of what all this did to me. But I'll tell you, when I was in first grade, I wanted to wear dresses with my pretty little shoes every single day. And the kids, they made fun of me relentlessly for it. I stood my ground and I wore my dress every day just like I wanted, but I had no friends. I was miserable. I was the butt of their teasing and their games, me and my cooties. I was so miserable, and it was so bad that I got held back in first grade, and I did first grade a second time. And when I did first grade over again, not one single time did I wear a dress, not once, because this time I wanted to fit in. I felt like it was a second chance, and this time I wanted to fit in. I didn't want to fail again just because I wanted to be me. And this is an example of how the world tells you what you are supposed to be and what is right. And if you want to fit in, you had better listen. How does one cope with not listening to their own wants, their own needs and desires because it's not good enough for the world around them. They bury them. The pieces go into the shadow side and they're forgotten. So you might think, well, what's the big deal? So you didn't wear a dress anymore. But the point is that I compromised myself and what I liked in order to fit into the world that I grew up in. I like to get dressed up. I'm a girly girl and I always have been. I tried to be a tomboy and I tried to fit in, but it just wasn't me. It just never flowed. It never felt right. I like painting my fingernails. I like wearing dresses and pretty clothes, and Lord knows I love shoes. And that has just never changed. No matter what, it never changed. But now that I have faced this aspect that I had put into my shadow so many years ago, I now don't really care as much what others think about it. I just care how it makes me feel. Like, I have this pink that I put in my hair and I love it. I don't know if it looks stupid. I don't know, but I love it. I love the color. I like having it. I think it looks really cool and I really enjoy it. I care about what I think about it and how it makes me feel. And that's really all I see and pay attention to now because I've dealt with a big piece of that insecurity that was from my shadow. And so I'm able to see myself with a different set of eyes. It looks cool. I look cool. I feel good about myself because I think it looks good when I look in the mirror. Do you see what I mean? I used to care so much that I wouldn't have ever put color in my hair like this because I would have worried that others would thought I was too old or I didn't look professional enough, or maybe it was something you were supposed to do before and it's not the hip thing to do now. Who knows? Who knows what else I would have worried about. I know it would have been a lot and a lot of things would have stopped me. Good gracious, I used to worry about so much. But it's those seemingly little things we make compromises on and put in our shadow that can result in pretty big issues later on that very much contribute to our depression and feelings of helplessness and not being good enough. So that brings us to how the shadow side affects us. Just because all of that stuff is not in our awareness and we don't remember it, doesn't mean it's gone. Oh no, all that stuff is there. It still exists and it can and will rear its ugly head whether you like it or not. So according to Carl Jung, the psychoanalyst who came up with the concept of the shadow side, he said that secrets are extremely damaging to us, and holding on to something and keeping it hidden within us like that, like a secret, causes psychological and emotional damage that is equivalent to that of a sin or of guilt, even if it is not a wrongful secret, meaning you did nothing wrong. Just the fact that it's a secret, it affects us in much the same way. The thing is that the unconscious has an effect on our consciousness. So the parts, aspects, and potential you have as a human to be anything, including evil, corrupt, and doing things against your own morals and integrity, or anything at all that you should know better but do anyway, these things emerge and influence us, especially during highly stressful or emotional times. So like if you were neglected as a child, you're going to struggle with accepting love and intimacy as an adult, to the extent that when someone tries to express care or love for you, you push them away thinking they're lying or are manipulating you in some way. People who were abused growing up stay in abusive relationships because the intensity of it makes them feel loved. That's what their experience of love is. So they stay. This is the unconscious influencing us, influencing those people, influencing us. And it does it all the time, more than you know or realize. So I met this most wonderful woman the other day working at a Subway. And she had previously worked her way up and out of Subway to a better job with better pay, you know. When one day her son got shot, right? And the shooting itself was an accident, But the shooter who had shot her son shoved her son out of the car and just left him there basically to die. Well, this lady, once again, like the most beautiful soul, kindest, nicest lady, just sweet as could be, she then went into a literal blind rage and hunted the shooter down and beat him extensively. She didn't even remember doing it. And she ended up turning herself into the police because she felt so bad about what she had done because it wasn't in her nature. But this is a perfect example of the potential we all have that, if kept in the unconscious, can continue to influence us. I'd love to hear more about what this woman and her story and what happened to her in her past that sent her in that direction, but it certainly was not in her character and not in her best interest either. She had to spend, albeit a short sentence for what she did, but it was 3 years away from her son, and now she once again has to work at Subway, and she is so full of regret and remorse, and she now has to live with this for the rest of her life. So what we keep in our shadow is not gone at all. It just operates and influences us outside of our awareness. And that's where the problems can come from. Not to mention, it keeps us lost and stagnant. It forces us to wear masks to hide ourselves from the world because we're not living our true and authentic lives. We cannot embrace our true selves and live up to our potential or purpose if we are not accepting the aspects of ourselves that make us who we are. And that goes a lot for those good traits you have in there, but also for some of the more negative ones too. We need to know, understand, and accept ourselves for exactly who we are and for the choices that we choose to make. So to sum all of that up, the shadow side is where we keep aspects of ourselves, including memories, experiences, ideas, thoughts, feelings, and what we could potentially be but choose not to be. The things in our shadow become unconscious, and although we are not aware of them, they continue to influence our consciousness, our personalities, our beliefs, and potentially influence our daily lives. To not address some of these secrets that we have in the shadow, especially those past experiences that have caused us harm or created false beliefs about ourselves or have made us give up parts of our authentic selves, causes us harm on a psychological, emotional, and even spiritual level. So that means the shadow side is not always going to stay hidden, right? Aspects of it will come out and sneak out and influence you. So working with it becomes an interesting process of facing emotions and putting together the pieces of what memories may begin to surface. The thing is, when you are facing the emotions, the thoughts, the sensations, and the memories that come from your shadow side, you are doing what is called shadow work. And although I plan to do a video about shadow work soon, to put it just briefly, shadow work is facing all those shadows and secrets so that you can let them go. Instead of storing them within yourself, where you are holding on to them and they're potentially doing damage unconsciously within your subconscious, shadow work, which often happens during a dark night of the soul, and I'll link to that video up here too, allows you to release them and free yourself from their grip. It's a not easy work, but as a spiritual person, especially you light workers and earth angels, starseeds, and the highly sensitive spiritual beings who have been through hell just to get to this point in your journey, are inevitably going to need to face this stuff in order to heal from it and learn from it. Put the pieces of your true and authentic self back together and live up to the full potential and spiritual mission that you have. And I personally want to thank you for every single moment of your life and every single step you take to do this work, because the world is a much better place because of you and because of your beautiful soul and what you are going to accomplish for all of us. So that is just the beginning, simply a discussion of what the shadow side is. Isn't it wonderful? Just absolutely wonderful that we have this side of ourselves that allows us the free will to be who we want to be. It is such an amazing thing where we can store and keep those intense, deep, and painful emotions until we're ready to face them and heal them so that we can get through this life. Even though it does kind of sneak out and influence us unconsciously, overall, you gotta appreciate this amazing aspect of being a human being and how well it works to help us and our egos get through and survive the physical world, and how it then works to let us grow, heal, and ascend along our spiritual path. I find it incredible, and I am so grateful that this site exists for so many reasons. So I hope that you found this information helpful and that you have a better understanding of how this side of ourselves is not scary at all or even harmful, but in fact, it's a huge part of helping us get through this life and grow along our spiritual journeys, and how it enables us to have so much free will and the choice to be whoever and whatever we want. Honestly, without it, where would we be? Just imagine. And if you did find this helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And be sure to check down in the description below where I have links to my blog and my books and also Facebook and Instagram and all of that stuff. I try to put a lot more helpful stuff about helping you connect with and communicate with the angels and deal with depression and anxiety in your life path and law of attraction and all of that stuff. And as always, I am sending a ton of love and blessings to you all. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for being you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.